Ooh, that looks tasty.
Hey boss, I got a crazy idea. What if instead of demanding everyone work as fast as they possibly can, what if we let people have as much time as they needed as long as the longer they waited, they did something better and better?
Yeah, I guess we can try it.
Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another game review, and today we are talking about Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar, designed by Daniele Tascini, Simone Luciani, and published by Czech Games Edition. And before we go any further, please make sure you turn on your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any errors in my brief rules description, that's where you'll find the corrections. And what Tzolk'in is this is an older Euro game. I say older, I believe it came out in 2014 or 2013, maybe 2016, I don't know, something like that. And this is a classic style Euro game. Resource gathering, worker placement, several ways to earn points throughout the game, except it has the twist of the longer you leave your workers out on the board, the longer you don't have them, the more powerful they will become. Because what's going on here is you're dealing with this calendar, the system of gears, which literally turns as you go through the game. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played, and just want to jump into my final thoughts, then you want to go to the timestamp on the screen, right? Now, for those of us still here, let's talk about how this game works. And luckily, the core of this game is actually pretty darn simple. The main mechanic is worker placement. And the only thing you need to know before you start the game is each player is going to be given 4 of these tiles, and they'll select 2 of them, and that tells you what your starting resources are. They have things like you might have corn, wood, stone, gold. You might start with some advancements in your agriculture or your architecture. You might start with an extra worker, and so on and so on. But each player is going to get to choose 2 of those, and so you have slightly asynchronous starting resources. And all you're going to be doing is, when it's your turn, you will place 1 worker, which literally means you take a little cylinder guy and you'll be placing on one of these 5 different Mayan cities, Chichen Itza, Tikal, etc., etc. And each one of those has a different thing that it does. If you come up here, you're going to be getting food and or wood. Over here, it's a little more of a grab bag. The further up you go, the more different things you get. I will note that just off the camera here, let me slide it down, you have these crystal skulls that you can get. Over here, this deals with advancing your technologies and building buildings and monuments, and I'll point out that halfway through the game, these buildings here will become level 2 buildings and slightly better, while down here you have a little bit of exchanging resources for other things, doing sacrifices to the gods, which will allow you to advance up these tracks up here, which are worth points and resources. There's 3 different temples that you can go up those tracks. And then finally over here, Chichen Itza, it has to do with turning in crystal skulls and placing them out on the board, and then you have claimed points and again more reputation with the various gods at their temples. And as you can guess, making the technological advancements will give you bonuses on various worker placement spaces as you put them out there, blah, 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 blah. But let's talk about the main core of the game, which is the worker placement. And this is also what makes this game somewhat unique. So what's going to happen is when you place your worker out, you're going to place your worker on the spot next to the absolute lowest number. So in this case, the 0. So I could place a worker just like that. Hooray for me, no problem. Then if I wanted to place a second worker, I can look at my handy dandy chart. It's going to cost me 1 food to place a second worker on my turn. So if I just want to put 1 worker out each turn, that's no problem. I can do that. If I want to put more than 1, it's going to cost me progressively more and more food. But for now, I placed 1. Whereas if a turn started and this was already out there, another player could place their worker over here. And it's going to cost them 1 food to do that. However, they are already on the track to getting something better. And then if the turn had started like this, and maybe another player wants to go right here, and that's going to cost them 2 food. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. What you need to know is you can only place workers or take workers back on your turn. You cannot do both. Then after all players have taken their turn, the calendar advances. The day changes. And so then you literally move the gear 1 tooth on the big gear in the middle, and that moves everybody 1 spot around the gear, and now they have access to something different. Just for, as you can see here, we're just kind of moving around, And you can see it keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. Now, what matters is on your turn, you're either placing or picking up workers. And depending on how far around you've gotten, that determines what you have access to. So if you leave your worker out there, you're getting further around these various gears, which lets you do different things, more powerful things, have more options. Because you can always take something behind you. You have to pay for it, but you can always go back. Or you might get all the way down to here where now this is just a wild, take anything you want. Then when you take it back, you can take whatever action happens to be there. And that's actually the core of this game. Now, there are a few other things to talk about. The main one being, you'll notice right here, there's this little spot. And this is actually our game timer. You see, because on this main gear in the middle, there are 2 blue symbols and 2 brown symbols. Every time you get to one of those, it's a feeding day. And on those feeding days, 2 things are going to happen. One, you have to feed all of your workers. And you start the game with 3. You can get a few more if you want, but each worker you have to feed to food. And if you can't do that, you're going to lose 3 points every time you get to feeding day. Now, there are ways to mitigate that. You might have built a farm at some point, which, as you can see, feeds a worker, or all those various things you might have done. And in addition to that, when you get to these feeding days, you're going to wind up evaluating the temples here. Sometimes you'll just be getting the resources as you go up. Other times you'll be getting whatever points your tracker is on. So if you haven't advanced up these temples, when you get to scoring here, you're actually going to lose points. So you have to make your way up those tracks in order not to lose points each turn. And really, that's pretty much it. Once the main gear has gone all the way around, that's it. The game is over. You do one last feeding day and one last round of scoring, and then that's it. Whoever has the most points wins. Yes, there are a few different things here worth noting. There are different in-game scoring things that you can get by building these monuments here. For example, this one, every blue tile you have is worth 4 points, or every wood tile you chop down gives you points. And so really, that's pretty much it. Yes, there are other things like who gets the first player marker, and if no one gets the first player marker, food winds up going out on here, and you can collect the food, and you get the first player marker. And there's a way that you can make the gear turn 2 times on a turn or whatever. But really, that is the core of this game. And so the big question is, what do I like about this game? First off, I would be foolish not to talk about the toy factor here. This is really fun, spinning this thing around, watching your workers move around, and leaving them on there. This is a little out of the toy factor, but the way you're leaving your workers out there and they get stronger and stronger and stronger is just great. It's just great. And like I said, this toy factor is just awesome. It's just totally awesome. It's fun to play with. It's fun to have out there. It was even fun for me to do a very mediocre little paint job on there. I just threw something on there to give it a little, so these designs in the middle could pop. And it's just fun. It's a fun thing to have on the table. But mostly, the best part about this game is the worker gets stronger with time. And this is an idea that I praised the idea of this when I talked about Pendulum, which is a brand new game, but that's another thing where the more powerful actions you do meant the longer you don't have your worker. And I thought that idea was really, really cool at the time, but it didn't quite mesh for me. It didn't really sing. And that was before I'd played this game. And now I play this game like, oh, that's how you do that. That's how you have a worker placement get stronger over time. You lose access to it, and the longer you leave it out, the better it gets, because and what makes it work is you're not stuck. You can always go back and be like, oops, I messed that up. Let me take this guy back right now. And you know, ooh, I don't want that. I want something back, so I'll just pay for it. I mean, that's not a good example here because these are wilds, but you get the idea. You're never stuck. You can always change your plan. And it's a new level. Again, it's not new. This is an old game, but it's a different level of puzzle in a worker placement game that I really, really enjoy. It's just so clever. It's so clever. And the way the production brings these gears in, is just fantastic. The other thing that I particularly like is over here, is this whole city here and what you're doing here. If you go out early, you can just get food. This has corn in the water. It's supposed to represent you're getting fish. So I guess the corn represents food. But anyhow, point is, you can just get food here. But the other thing that I find particularly interesting are these other tiles here. Because yeah, you can just get food here and good, you're done. But these other ones, it looks like you just get food or wood, but it's not that simple because you're farming. and you have to harvest a tile. So if I harvest this tile, I take this, I get my 4 corn, and maybe I'll be able to build a monument later that's going to give me points for this at the end of the game, or maybe not. But when these are gone, they're gone unless you have built up an advancement of your farming, your agriculture, which will allow you to still get food from there. And even more fun and maddening at the same time is over here. You can't farm until you've cleared the forest, unless you just want to burn down the forest and take whatever penalty is there to get to the food. But of course, again, this is one of the best ways to get wood. And you need wood to do stuff. And so if once you've chopped down all the forest, it becomes significantly harder to get more wood. And it's great because part of you wants to rush to get all that stuff there. But then you're not doing anything else, and maybe you're falling behind. But then you got it's a great puzzle. The choices are real, the choices are hard. And then the other thing that I really enjoy is the main way that you score points. Now, you may argue the main way you score points is through these monument tiles at the end. And that might be true. Or perhaps the main way you score points is by going up the temple tracks. I don't know because I'm not very good at this game. But the one that excites me the most is this one over here. It's this, as it goes around, you have your worker out there, and he gets up higher, and whoops, going the wrong way, and he gets up higher and higher and higher, and as you're going, you're going to put him down somewhere, and you're going to put down one of your skulls, and then you claim it, and no one else can get what's here. But here's the thing. It's not easy to get the skulls. It's really not easy. There's not many ways. The simplest way to get a skull is all the way back over here, and you have to get from here all the way to here. That is 4 turns that you have to wait to be able to get a skull. And what if someone else is there? You got to wait longer. So it's hard to get there. And yet you kind of want to get those right away because the scoring spots, once they're claimed, they are gone. And so if you can hear it in my voice, this game is so delightfully frustrating in the best way, truly in the best way, because the choices you make are brutal. The choices are so hard because you really do feel like you have to do everything, which to me is a sign of a really good Euro game, that I feel like I have to do it all. I can't ignore anything. But the reality is, like with most Euro games, if you do everything, you're doing nothing. And so you can hear in my voice again, it's just delightfully challenging. It's very, very challenging, and that is fun. And that brings me right into what are my quibbles with the game. And my quibbles with the game mostly have to do with, this is an old school feeling Euro. And what do I mean by that? One, I mean with just the production itself. Outside of this, which is awesome, and the awesome skulls here, which you can't really see, but these skulls are actually pretty darn cool. Everything is just generic. You got your cylinders, you got cubes for gold and wood and stone. You got your food, you just have little things like that. So, I mean, there's nothing, the production itself, there's nothing exciting about the game pieces, though this is certainly a game that I would consider upgrading my stuff for, because it is a delightful game, but it's old school. This is not a sexy production game. It just isn't. It's just got that old school vibe. Cubes, you move your cubes around, they represent things, and it's about the mechanics. And maybe that's not your jam anymore. Maybe you want custom meeples and the metal custom resource bits and on and on. Maybe that's what you like and what you love, and there's nothing wrong with that. Heck, I just got the Anachrony Infinity box, which is all about that kind of stuff. But it's old school. And along with it being an old school game, this is a Euro game that does not care about your feelings at all. The first game I played, I was just playing two-handed to learn the rules and stuff, but the first game I played, one of my two hands scored 6 points. The other of my two hands was in the negatives. And then I was like, I can't be that bad at games. So I'm like, I'll just play this a few more. And I played a few more times. Literally, I sat there and spent all day on a Saturday playing against myself over and over again. And I never got past 17 points. Just brutal. The game is unforgiving. It is brutally hard. It's fair because it's brutally hard to everybody, but this is not one that's going to make you feel good if you're not doing well. There are a lot of Euro games out there that, I don't want to say they artificially inflate their points, but the scoring is higher. For example, one of my favorite games, which is coming out this year, finally, Merchant's Cove, is a super high scoring game. I have lost games where I had 230 points. And you still feel good about yourself. If you lose, but you scored 230 points, oh man, I still did a really good job. Someone else just did better. You don't feel good about yourself when you score -5 points. And that might not be for you. This is a game that is unforgiving, but so satisfying. Because when you do get over 10 points finally, you are like, yes, I am a Eurogame god! And then someone else gets 16 points, and you wind up losing 12 points because you can't feed your workers suddenly. In any event, I think you see what I'm saying. This is a game that is a classic for a reason, because the mechanics are tight. The mechanics are good. Everything is fun. The toy factor is really high, and the choices are so impactful every single time. Like I've already said this, you feel like you have to do everything. But if you do everything, you've done nothing, and you're like me, hanging out, pretending that you're playing golf and your low score is good. So if you're a person that's all about pure mechanical joy and you like worker placement and your feelings can take a beating from the game and you'll be okay, this is a game for you. So there you have it, folks. That is Tzolk'in the Mind Calendar. As always, if I made any mistakes in the rules that I explained, please let me know in the comments with the timestamp. I'll get that into the Klingon subtitles. As always, if this video was useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.